They threw me out like I was nothing, a stain on their perfect family name, just because I was pregnant at 18. 6 years later, a viral painting by my son and a hefty trust fund suddenly made me their daughter again. The audacity? Oh, the sheer, bitter irony. My name is Elena, and for the last few years, my whole world has revolved around this cozy little apartment in Aldridge, Vermont. It's a calm, picturesque town known for its independent artists and charming European architecture. Every morning, I make coffee in our modest kitchen, the window overlooking the central plaza. And right there, staring back at me, is the Marlowe Art Gallery. It used to be my family's pride and joy. The sign still blares Marlowe Gallery, big and clear. But now, it's just a dusty relic of a past that nearly broke me. Mom, I finished my drawing. Noah's loud, excited voice snapped me out of my trance. He burst into the kitchen, holding up a watercolor of a dog curled beneath an autumn tree, its eyes incredibly expressive. I bent down, running my fingers through his soft, light brown hair. You really saw that dog, Noah. I'm so proud of you. He looked so sad at the park yesterday, didn't he? I froze. The way he could capture raw emotion, that deep empathy through art, it reminded me so much of myself in high school. Back then, I was always told I was overly sensitive or dreamy. Now, I teach children's art lessons at the local community center. It's not exactly the grand dream I once had, but it lets me do what I love, paint, and inspire other kids who are trying to navigate a world that sometimes feels too restrictive. Our flat is small, but it's ours, filled with warmth and color. The walls are covered in oil and pastel paintings, mostly mine, some by my young students. Sometimes, my work gets shown in local cafes and bakeries. It's not about fame. It's about reminding myself that I still exist, still thrive, through my passion. Mom, I get to work with clay today, right? Noah asked, already halfway into his backpack. That's right. Miss Marion, the famous potter, is visiting your class. Go wild with your creativity. Noah practically bounced with delight. I smiled, but a familiar, quiet ache rippled through my memories. Jonathan and Caroline Marlowe, my parents. They owned the most renowned gallery in Aldridge. They were always at lavish parties, perfectly dressed, talking about art as if it only existed in contracts and valuations. Meanwhile, I, their eldest daughter, was only ever allowed to pursue painting as a passing interest. I'd loved oil painting since I was tiny, even won a few local school contests. But when I dared to tell my mother I wanted to study fine arts, she just smiled, folded my application form, and said, "Pouting is fun, Elena, but it won't feed you." They had expectations, a reputation to maintain, a flawless image to protect. What they never understood was that I painted to live, not the other way around. Then, when I turned 18, everything changed. The only person who ever truly believed in my artistic abilities was Caleb, an upperclassman in our high school art group. We shared that same anguish of feeling overlooked, dreaming of a world where emotions didn't have to be suppressed. But that dream twisted into a nightmare when the pregnancy test showed 2 lines. I tested 3 times. All the same. I was barely 18 and suddenly pregnant. They didn't yell. They didn't weep. They just locked my bedroom door and, in frankly chilling tones, said, "Elena, as of today, you are no longer a Marlowe." I was forced to leave within 24 hours, with just a backpack and some spare change my younger brother had saved in his piggy bank. No one asked where I was going. Nobody asked if I was terrified. But I didn't give up. Not for them. For me. I had Noah. He deserved a world that understood how to love. I can still picture that October afternoon. The sky over Aldridge felt heavy, as if it knew something terrible was coming. I stood outside the Marlowe Estate's iron gate, the test stick burning a hole in my pocket. 2 red lines. Undeniable. 3 tests, all the same result. There was no turning back. I walked into the marble path, my heels echoing across the cold, vast hall. My mother, Caroline, was in the kitchen, meticulously peeling apples, her hair perfectly pinned. My father, Jonathan, sat in his study, reading an art magazine. Everything seemed utterly calm, like I wasn't standing there, shivering between the innocence of youth and the crushing weight of the future. "Mom," I started, my voice barely a whisper. "I need to talk to you. Seriously." She looked up, a frown creasing her brow. "If this is about applying to art school again, Elena, I'm truly out of patience." I took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant." For the first time in my life, I watched the knife fall from her grip. A second later, total silence. My father strode out of his study, his eyes darkening, as if I'd committed the greatest crime imaginable. "What? You're joking." I shook my head, my voice barely audible. "I'm pregnant with Caleb's baby." My father's rage didn't explode immediately. It swelled gradually, like a storm gathering at sea. "That boy? You're throwing your future away for someone with no home, no name, no money. I love him, and I want to keep the baby." At that moment, I still believed in Caleb. I believed that even if my parents rejected us, we could make it together. "No, absolutely not," my mother said, standing up rigidly. "Do you think this baby makes you a good mother? You're turning yourself into a joke in this town." My father walked to the window, his back to me, his voice colder than I'd ever heard it. "From now on, you are no longer a daughter of the Marlowe family. If you choose this, you're on your own. Leave." That night, everything inside me crumbled. I stood there, stunned, in the house I grew up in, my dignity tumbling to the hardwood floor. I had only hours to grab what little I could carry. Later, I sat on a park bench near the school, my phone trembling in my hand as I called Caleb. All I wanted was for him to say, "Don't worry. We'll get through this." And I would have felt stronger than ever. "Elena," his voice was rough. "You're calling late. I need to see you. I'm pregnant." Silence. One beat, then two. Finally a sigh. "Are you sure?" "Completely. I took 3 tests." "Elena, I can't be a dad right now. I just got a scholarship. I'm moving to New York next month. This is an opportunity one can't lose." I felt the world literally crumble around me. "And what about me? What about the baby?" "You'll be okay. You're strong." "I'm sorry." Click. The wind stung through my thin coat, but it was nothing compared to the hollow pain inside. I sat alone all night, not knowing where to go or what to do. The next morning, I returned to school, my eyes puffy, my legs shaky. Then I saw her, Miss Lorraine, the only art teacher who had ever truly believed in me. She rushed over, grasping my shoulders. "Elena, what happened to you?" I couldn't keep it in. I broke down right there, for the first time in weeks. Someone was listening. Without judgment. "You can stay at my house as long as you need," she said softly. "You don't have to go through this alone." I nodded through my tears. That night, I had a roof over my head. A place to start anew. No parents. No boyfriend. No relatives standing by my side. But I had Noah, still unborn, but already teaching me how to stand tall. I moved into a small wooden cottage behind Miss Lorraine's garden. It was tiny, just enough room for a single bed, an ancient desk, and a chipped brass lamp. But to me, it was everything. A true home. Every day, I helped her cook and clean. And after school, we painted together. She never asked for much, and she never pitied me. She simply gave me space to breathe, to get back on my feet. Most importantly, she made sure I stayed in school. As my belly expanded, rumors followed me through the corridors. But I didn't care. I still sat in the front row, turned in my work on time, and spent my nights studying art history. That was a goal I'd never even dared to admit to myself before. On graduation day, Noah was about the size of a tiny watermelon inside me. I walked into that test hall with sore feet, an aching back, and a loose coat to avoid attention. But once I started writing, I felt liberated. Something I'd never experienced in the grandeur of the Marlowe estate. I gave birth to Noah 3 weeks later on a scorching July afternoon. The small-town hospital had no private rooms, no elegant bassinets. Just creaky ceiling fans and the strong smell of disinfectant. But when I heard his cry, I knew it was all worth it. I named him Noah because the name means strong-willed protector. I hoped he would grow up to be kind, powerful, and never feel like a burden to anyone. For the first 2 years, I lived off a part-time assistant stipend from the local art college. Mornings, I babysat. Evenings, I did online art teacher certification programs. Miss Lorraine watched Noah on weekends while I worked shifts at a bakery downtown. Some nights, I was so exhausted I'd fall asleep mixing watercolors. But I never complained. For the first time in my life, everything I did made sense. When Noah was 3, I finally received my community art teacher certification. I sat on Miss Lorraine's porch and cried more than I had ever cried when my parents turned me away. Not because I was in anguish, but because I had accomplished my goal. Alone, yet unbroken. I landed a job teaching children's art classes at the Aldridge Art Center, the very place Caleb and I used to spend our weekends in high school. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'd take Noah to class, then start teaching other children how to merge colors with light, emotions, things language can't even express. I don't tell them to paint what they see. I tell them to paint how they feel. Noah's artwork started appearing on our walls, taped up with clear adhesive. They were awkward, but bursting with emotion. A smiling cat, a scarlet maple tree in winter, a mother and child standing in the rain under a green umbrella. Even in those childish strokes, I could see it. Noah had talent. I wouldn't force it, but I would foster it if he was ready. One October day, while cleaning up after class, I received an email from a nearby art cafe. We were quite delighted by Miss Meghan Markle's artwork in the children's classroom. We'd like to encourage you to present a few pieces next month. Please contact us if you're interested. I read it repeatedly, barely believing it. All these years, I had painted with passion, driven by an instinctual belief that art wasn't a luxury, but a place where people could truly be themselves. And now, someone had seen it. That evening, while making dinner, I told Noah, "Guess what? Someone wants to hang Mommy's paintings in public." Noah cheered. "Are you famous now, Mommy?" I laughed. "I'm just your mom, but I think we're starting a new chapter, Noah." I gazed out the window. Outside, orange and crimson leaves fluttered in the wind like fall letters. I didn't have any family to lean on, no grandparents to pick Noah up from school. But I had my son. And a life. Simple, yet completely full. My phone buzzed in my pocket one Wednesday afternoon, just as I was putting away brushes after my last class. When I saw the screen, my heart skipped a beat. Chloe Marlowe. I hadn't misread it. It was my sister, whom I hadn't spoken to since I left home over 6 years ago. My hand trembled. I paused for a few seconds before picking up. "Elena, it's me, Chloe." Her voice was still as soothing as I remembered, but something in her tone made me nervous. "What is it?" "I'm getting married early next month. I want you to come." I said nothing. That one sentence unleashed a flood of emotions, skepticism, rage, and a vague, aching longing. After all these years. "You're calling," I sighed, my voice barely audible, "just to invite me to a wedding?" "It's not just that. Dad has heart problems. It's gotten worse lately. And Mom, she's changed." I let out a bitter laugh. "Changed? You mean they suddenly realized they had another daughter after throwing me out like I was some stain on their perfect image?" Silence. Then Chloe said softly, "I can't defend what they did. But I've missed you. I've been following your art online. Noah, he looks so much like you when you were little." I clutched the phone tighter. My chest ached from something unnameable. "They want to see you," Chloe added. "They know they were wrong. And they sent you this." The mailman arrived the next afternoon as I was helping Noah set up his paints in the studio. A small envelope, no sender's name, but the slanted calligraphy was unmistakable. It belonged to my father, Jonathan Marlowe. I opened it. Inside was a brief handwritten letter. "This is a portion of the trust fund you were supposed to receive. If you are willing, I would like to see you again. Not to justify anything, but to listen. I hope you will consider it. Signed, Jonathan Marlowe." A check was enclosed. A hefty sum, far more than my earnings from a year of teaching. I sat quietly for a long time after reading it, my heart tangled with memories. That check couldn't erase the evenings Noah and I were in need, or the nights I carried him through the bitter cold to get medicine. But the letter, that was the first time he had ever addressed me by name. That night, as I was doing the dishes, Noah tugged on my shirt. "Hey, Mommy, do I have grandparents?" I paused, gazing into his sky-blue eyes. I knew he'd been wondering about it for a long time. Yes, but they live very far away. Can I meet them? That single question bothered me all night. I couldn't deny my child the opportunity to have a family, even if it wasn't ideal. But I couldn't forgive them that easily. The following morning, I texted Chloe, I will come. But I'm doing it for Noah, not them. 3 days later, a wedding invitation arrived by hand. Elegant cardstock, elaborate floral patterns. Exactly my mother's style. Inside, a brief letter from her. Words cannot change the past, but I hope you'll give the present a chance, even though it's late. I've always wanted to see my grandchild, just once. The last line was smeared, as if a drop of water had fallen as she was writing. Perhaps tea. Or perhaps a tear. I folded the letter and carefully placed it in my drawer. That night, while brushing Noah's hair in bed, I whispered, next weekend, I'm taking you somewhere special. Will there be cake? Yes. And someone who used to be part of Mommy's family. Noah tilted his head, hesitant, then nodded. As long as you're there, Mommy. I held him tight. My heart was still a tempest inside, but I knew that if I didn't confront the past, it would linger inside me like an unhealed scar. Chloe's wedding was held at Granville Hall, one of Aldridge's most elegant venues. The entrance was adorned with white orchids, and a string quartet played delicate classical music. I clutched Noah's hand as we walked into the main hall, already packed with guests. Heads turned. Whispers moved like waves. I could feel it. They recognized me. Elena Marlowe, the estranged daughter. The one who had been missing from the esteemed family for 6 years. But today, I did not come alone. I arrived with my son, Noah, in a sharp little suit, his blue eyes wide with excitement and stress. Mommy, why is everyone looking at us? I squeezed his hand. Because you're so handsome. They're surprised. Noah giggled, and my anxiety finally subsided. Just then, Chloe rushed over, radiant in her elegant bridal gown, her hair swept up. You really came. She hugged me fiercely. Congratulations, I said, holding her tenderly. After a quick introduction, we were seated at a quiet table near the window. Noah looked around excitedly, asking about the violins, the crystal chandeliers, the elegant dishes. Mommy, can I draw? I took out his sketchbook and colored pencils from my bag. He never traveled without them. Noah dragged a chair to the corner of the table and began sketching as if no one else existed. That was his world, full of color and imagination. After a while, a middle-aged man approached our table. He was tall, with salt and pepper hair and sharp, kind eyes. Chloe walked with him and whispered, "This is Mr. Everett Langford. He's an art critic for Palette Review magazine." I shook his hand warmly, expecting a quick chat, but Mr. Langford's gaze fell on one of Noah's sketches. Did your son draw this? Yes, he did. He leaned down, gently picking up a painting of an autumn landscape with falling leaves over a tiny creek and 2 figures, clearly a mother and her child, walking together. The composition, the color choices, the emotional depth. At his age, to sense and express this boy has a natural gift. I stayed silent. Noah just smiled and continued drawing undisturbed. Forgive me for asking, Mr. Langford continued, the Marlowe name. There were a few gifted painters in that family. Are you related to the Marlowe Gallery? I nodded slowly. I'm Jonathan Marlowe's eldest daughter. The room seemed to pause. Mr. Langford stared at me, then at Noah. His eyes widened with wonder. Then it makes sense. The legacy lives on. His comments swept across the room like wildfire. Several guests whispered. More eyes shifted to our table. As the music paused for the ceremony, an elderly guest, clearly one of my father's old acquaintances, cried out, "Is it true? That's Jonathan's grandson drawing over there." Another voice chimed in. I heard Jonathan used to be a talented artist himself. Why did he stop painting? All eyes turned. My father, standing in a far corner with my mother, looked apprehensive. My mother stepped forward, attempting to re-establish order. Let's not let personal matters interrupt today's celebration. But Mr. Langford gently interjected to me, this isn't personal. It's talent. And a chance for a family to see what they nearly missed. I rose, ready to take Noah and leave. I didn't want unresolved history to overshadow Chloe's wedding. But as I turned, I heard my father's voice. "Elena, wait." I turned back. He approached me slowly, his face etched with the signs of aging. His eyes no longer held the hardness I remembered. "Please don't go." Chloe was right. We were wrong. And today, in front of everyone, if you can give your father a chance. I looked at him, then at Noah, who stared up at me, not quite comprehending, but clutching my hand tightly. In that moment, I didn't see the man who'd kicked me out. I saw a father trying to swallow his pride, trying to start again. Before I could respond, Chloe moved forward and stood with me in the middle of the room, her eyes full of fierce loyalty. "Everyone," she announced confidently, her voice firm. "Today is my wedding day, and I want everyone who matters to be here. And my sister, Elena, is an irreplaceable part of this family." She paused, her gaze going to my mother, who stood motionless, trying to keep her composure, squeezing her handkerchief until her knuckles turned white. "It's time to stop pretending that nothing happened. It's time to face the truth. She was hurt. She was thrown out of her own home. Yet, she stood strong, raised her son with love, and above all, she kept her kindness." I felt Noah's grip on my hand tighten. He didn't know the specifics, but he sensed the tension and automatically moved closer to me. "If today is the day I start my own family," Chloe continued, her voice unwavering, "then I want to begin with honesty, with compassion. No hiding, no avoiding. And I'm proud to have my sister Elena and my nephew Noah by my side." Claps broke out, not all at once, but loud enough to drown out the whispering. I looked at my parents. My father bent his head, his shoulders trembling slightly. My mother cried, truly cried, for the first time. It was regret, not wrath or disappointment. My father moved closer, his voice quieter now. "Elena, if I could go back to that day, I wouldn't choose silence. I was afraid. Afraid of losing our reputation, our image. And, because of that fear, I lost you." I stared him in the eye. "I don't need an apology to feel better. I need change." My mother also took a step forward, taking Noah's hand softly, hesitantly. "He's truly special, Elena. And worthy of love. Even if I didn't see it before." I took a deep breath. "If you really want to make things right, then start with actions, not gifts or empty words. Come to my class. Watch your grandson learn. Ask. Share. Be patient. Forgiveness doesn't come in a day. It's nurtured one act at a time." My father nodded, without disputing. "We'll start from the beginning. If you'll let us." He bent down to look at Noah. "What do you think about Grandma and Grandpa coming to art class with you on Saturday?" Noah looked up at me, then at them. "Will you come too, Mommy?" I nodded. "Always." The party continued. The atmosphere eased. The puzzled gazes turned to hushed admiration. There was still some gap between us, but I knew that day was the first step. A bridge built across a gulf that had been open for far too long. As the party wound down, Gerald Langford, the art critic, approached me again. "I'm organizing a children's art showcase at the town museum. I'd like to invite Noah to participate. And you, if you're willing to share your story." I didn't respond right away, but something inside me shifted. Not only did I feel the first stirrings of forgiveness, but also a profound sense of relief. On the walk home, Noah tugged on my sleeve and murmured, "Mommy, do you think they'll really come to art class?" I smiled. "I don't know, sweetheart. But I do know we gave them a chance. What they do with it is up to them." We walked out of the hall into the night breeze, which rustled the trees. I gripped Noah's hand and felt lighter than I had in years. 3 weeks after Chloe's wedding, I received an unexpected phone call from my father. His voice was still uncertain, but no longer proud. "Elena, are you free this weekend? Is something wrong? I'd like to come see your class, if you'll have me." I was quiet for a moment before nodding, though he couldn't see it. "Class starts at 9 a.m. Saturday. If you really want to come, be on time. I'll be there. And I'll bring some of my old sketches, if that's okay." After the call, I stood by the window, sunshine streaming across the paint-stained tablecloth. For the first time in nearly 6 years, I felt as if the impossible was slowly becoming a reality. That Saturday, I arrived early to set up the classroom. Noah had been too excited to sleep since 6 a.m. He even brought a set of watercolors for Grandpa Jonathan to try. When my father walked in, Noah dashed to open the door, as if he'd been waiting forever. He wore a pale shirt and carried a package of old sketches covered in canvas. As he gazed around the little classroom, lined with children's paintings and a sign reading Miss Elena's art class, I saw something soften in his eyes. "You designed all this?" he asked softly. "Every color, every brush, every chair," I said, my voice steady. "Paid for with my savings. It's not gilded like the Marlowe Gallery rooms, but it's filled with real laughter." He didn't argue. He just walked slowly around the room, soaking in the work. Then he paused at one of Noah's pieces, a winter woodland, drenched in blue-purple light beneath a starry sky. "Seems like a grown artist, I know," I said, "but I never push him to paint. If he chooses another path, I'll still support him." My father gave me a long look before slowly unrolling his old sketches from his boyhood. Neither of us said anything, but I felt it. Through those faded lines, he was revealing a part of his history that he had buried, a part he once feared I would become. In the days that followed, he increased his visits. At first, he just observed. But gradually, he sat down and taught the kids some fundamental basics. My students started calling him the old art instructor, and Noah proudly informed his buddies, "My grandpa can mix colors without a palette." My mother, Caroline, found her own way to connect with Noah. Every Wednesday afternoon, she invited him to the park, bringing apple pie and coloring sheets. I expected her to be uneasy, but instead, she made Noah laugh with made-up fairy stories. One day, Noah came home saying, "Grandma said an owl once studied painting and opened a gallery under an oak tree." I couldn't believe what I was seeing, a previously ignored child, laughing in his grandparents' arms. And then, something happened that I never dared to imagine. The Marlowe Gallery sponsored an exhibition titled The New Generation. The curator? None other than Chloe. She invited me to display artwork by my students. "Would you say yes?" Chloe asked over an afternoon cappuccino. "You're the only one who understands what it means to plant seeds with art." I considered for a long time before nodding. If it's a place where children are valued, not judged, then yes. I'll bring their work. On opening day, I stood in the children's section, where the paintings were framed at eye level for young visitors. Each piece had a modest name tag and a handwritten note from me. When Gerald Langford came by and spotted one of Noah's paintings, he smiled. "It's not just talent. It's being nurtured the right way." My father stood behind me, saying nothing, but his eyes glittered as if he had discovered a part of himself that had been missing for years. During the second evening of the children's show, a light rain fell on the gallery windows. I was helping students clean up their watercolors when Chloe hurried in, visibly upset. "Elena, there's someone waiting for you in the lobby. He says his name is Caleb Dawson." My hand froze in midair. That name shattered the peace I had built for nearly 6 years. Caleb. The man who once swore to stay no matter what, then vanished when things got tough. I stepped out. The glass doors slid open, and there he stood in a dark suit, slicked back hair, polished shoes, as if he'd strolled out of an advertisement. But the eyes. I still recognized them. Eyes that I used to trust, now making me feel guarded. "Elena, you look just as beautiful," he added, smiling. "What are you doing here?" "I saw the article about the exhibit, saw your name." He held out a local magazine. It included an interview about the children's art class, as well as a photograph of myself and Noah painting in the sunlight. Then I saw the photo of Noah. "He's my son, Elena. And I think it's time I make it right." I couldn't suppress a dry laugh. Make it right? After 6 years? Without a single message, not a dollar, not even a call. I was young. I didn't know what to do. But it's different now. I have a stable job. I want Noah to know who I am. Noah already knows who's been there for him. And it's not you, Caleb. "Elena, I have rights." "No." I cut him off. "What rights, Caleb?" "When I was struggling to raise him, where were you? When he had a fever on a freezing night? When I painted through exhaustion to afford his art supplies? When he asked me, 'Who's my dad?' Where were you?" Caleb said nothing. But I could see it. The strategy behind his quiet. He hadn't come out of love. He'd come to get something else. Perhaps it was his appearance, his reputation, or the opportunity to associate himself with something appealing. "If you don't leave now," I said, my voice raspy, "my attorney will contact you. And this time, you'll have to face what you ran from." Every hospital record from when I gave birth to Noah. A statement from Miss Lorraine, the woman who took me in when you vanished. The last message you sent me. And if needed, I'll tell the press how you abandoned a pregnant 18-year-old girl for a scholarship. You can't do that. He took a step back. "Trust me," I stated firmly, staring him in the eyes. "It's not just that I can do it. I will. Because my son deserves a life untouched by a man who only came back after seeing his face in a magazine." Just then, the gallery door opened. My father, Jonathan Marlowe, walked in. He took a step forward and stood silently beside me. His face was calm, but the quiet force in his eyes made Caleb take another step back. "I'm Jonathan Marlowe," my father said, his voice deep and steady. "And you should know. I hired a lawyer 6 years ago in case you ever showed up again. They're ready now." Caleb froze. "I just want to know my child." "You don't have a child here," my father remarked quietly, steadily. "You gave that up when you walked away. And if you take one more step, I'll personally send every document we've prepared to the biggest media outlets in Vermont." A rush of wind swept through the open doors, breaking the tense calm. Caleb tightened his fists, his gaze reflecting more injured pride than genuine remorse. He turned without saying another word. His footsteps were loud and harsh, but the arrogance from before had completely vanished. I watched him leave, not satisfied, but relieved. The past had come calling again, but this time, I did not let it in. That night, when reading to Noah before bed, he asked, "Mom, who is that man?" I put my hand on his smooth, light brown curls. "Just someone Mommy used to know, sweetheart. He's not important anymore. But I still have you. And Grandma and Grandpa and Aunt Chloe, right?" I nodded and smiled. "Yes, sweetheart. And you have a whole world that loves you genuinely, without conditions." Noah cuddled under the blanket, content, and I understood that what we had been through was worthwhile because I had clung to the one thing that mattered most, my self-esteem and my son's future. By late December, Aldridge had seen its coldest winter days. Every street was lined with bare trees, snow-covered rooftops, and flickering Christmas lights. In our small flat, the aroma of freshly baked gingerbread blended with soft holiday music. Noah sat at the window, coloring a picture of Santa putting presents under the tree. I watched him, a peculiar feeling washing over me, tranquil, yet contemplative. Since the exhibit and the meeting with Caleb, I felt as if an old door had closed and a new, unfamiliar one was gently opening. My family, once torn by fear and pride, was slowly putting itself back together. My father didn't speak much, but he attended class every Saturday. Sometimes he just sat in the corner, mixing paint for the youngsters or helping with cleanup. He never mentioned the past, but I could see it in his calm presence and tiny gestures. He was making atonement in the only way he knew how, by showing up. My mother, still sharp and composed, started asking Noah more questions. She once brought him a carefully chosen fairy tale coloring book. Watching her read to Noah in that warm, deep voice revealed a sensitivity in her I had never known. A softness long hidden beneath the armor of someone too preoccupied with upholding her family's reputation. Chloe paid frequent visits, often bringing baked treats and awkwardly amusing anecdotes about her new married life. She had become the glue, uniting and healing people through patience and quiet sincerity, rather than grand statements. I wouldn't claim I had forgiven everything. The scars were still there, fading but never truly gone. But I had learned not to let them define me. I didn't need anyone to beg pardon or proclaim that I had been correct. I simply needed them to stay long enough and be genuine enough for me to believe they were serious this time. For the first time since Noah's birth, we ate dinner together as a family on Christmas Eve. A round table in the center of our living room was set with roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and my father's traditional pecan pie. Noah wore a red sweater crocheted by Grandma and couldn't stop raving about my new painting, which Aunt Chloe was displaying in the municipal library. My dad raised his glass. This year, I won't make a big speech. I just want to say thank you for us being here, together. I looked at him. No words were required. I just nodded. As we went outside to watch the snowfall, Noah came up to me and said, "Mommy, can I make a wish this year?" "What is it, sweetheart?" "I don't want any presents. I just want us to have dinner together like this every year." I knelt down and hugged him firmly. "Me too, Noah. Me too." Snow gently coated the porch roof, and golden light spilled through our warm windows. Nobody knows what the future holds, or if every crack in the heart will ever be totally repaired. But I knew one thing: I was no longer alone. And I was not the outcast. I was chosen again. This time, by the very same family that had previously abandoned me. My story isn't about seeking forgiveness, it's about overcoming adversity and building a meaningful life. I went from being a girl rejected by her family to becoming a mother, a teacher, and a leader for my child. The past cannot be erased. But through love and perseverance, I transformed agony into power. And that allowed a broken family to repair itself through honesty and trust.